Her administration has been so welcoming, so open, so accessible, and on the ball, and I am proud to call you my mayor. Everybody, London Breeze.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you all so much for being here, and let's give Brian and the Q Foundation another hand. So Reese Isabel brought Brian and other service providers who serve people living with HIV in San Francisco and wanted to make sure that I knew what people needed, because I didn't want to spend another dollar without clearly understanding where the deficiencies were. And it all went back to housing. It all went back to the need for subsidies, the need to help keep people housed. And this is the first time in 12 years that we've allocated $1 million to provide subsidies, which will help at least 120 individuals. And I'm so grateful and excited for the providers who are here, the people who are going to work with us on this, the work that we are going to continue to do, because we want to make sure that we are helping some of our most vulnerable populations. And when you think about it, sadly, people who are homeless, living with HIV, they're less likely to get services and treatment and stay healthy as much as they possibly need. They need stable housing. Housing and health go hand in hand, and it's why I am fighting so hard to build more housing in San Francisco. Yesterday, we opened a 200-bed navigation center in the Embarcadero, and wait, the day before yesterday. The days are running in together. And we just announced yesterday a new navigation center for transitional age youth. So the investments that we are making are good investments, and part of the challenge is we need more housing. We need more housing. I grew up in San Francisco, as many of you know, and I have seen so many of my friends and family members who I grew up with in public housing leave San Francisco because in some instances they couldn't get a unit even in public housing. They couldn't qualify for affordable housing, and we don't have enough units. And so part of my focus is, yes, to address homelessness and to address the challenges that exist, but to also think about roads that lead out of the shelters, roads that lead into affordable places that are safe for people to live. And that means that we have a lot of work to do. And so I know this is kind of going off course, but I just also want to thank you all for supporting Proposition A, this last ballot measure for $600 million for affordable housing. Because we know we have a lot of work to do. There is nothing, better than having a roof over your head and the support that you need. And I will say, if it weren't for my grandmother raising me and two of my brothers, I don't know what I would have done. It could have easily been a situation that could have been the difference between, me being here as your mayor today or anything else. And that's what I think about when making these decisions. And when I look at the data, another major investment we made that I'm really proud of is Trans Home SF. And we know that folks, brothers and sisters from our trans community are 17 times more likely to experience homelessness than anyone else when you look at the data, which is why those investments are so important. So here in the city, we know there's a lot of work to do. But I'm so grateful to this community and the work that you are all doing to be advocates, to really push the city and what we spend our resources on in the right direction so they actually have an impact on people's lives. I've said this to department heads and to folks who work for the city time and time again. Don't waste a dollar on a paperclip, because that's the difference between being able to house someone or to help someone, and we don't have money to waste, because people are counting on us to make the right investments. And that's exactly what I plan to do. So I want to thank Brian and the Q Foundation and thank all of you so much for being here. I am so looking forward to seeing this program have an impact so that we can continue to make the right investments. Thank you again, and thank you for all the support and the work that so many of you have done for so many years. And now, finally, I think you have a great partner in the mayor's office who's going to continue to work to really put our money where our mouth is. And I know, let me just add one more thing. I talk a lot, I'm sorry. I gotta say this one more thing, because this is something I'm also really proud of, because so many people set the path to make this happen before I was even thought of. And the fact that this year's data on new HIV infections in San Francisco has dropped below 200 for the first time in our city's history. I am so excited about that, and how we as a community will truly get to zero. And I also want to just say that those numbers are still relatively high for African Americans and Latinos, and that means it's important that we make deliberate investments, which we have in those particular communities, to do a better job around outreach, around support, but ultimately I keep going back to housing. And so we are going to continue to work with you on these things, and we're just grateful to have an amazing partner in the Q Foundation and all of you. So again, thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you again, Mayor London Breed. Her administration has really turned the tide when it comes to housing in San Francisco, and we deeply appreciate all of the support. Next, is Regina here? Where is Miss Regina? Come on up. So next, I'm so proud to welcome Regina Allen.
Before I obtained the subsidy from the Q Foundation, now I have a house. I live on Folsom Street. I have stabilized housing. There were times prior to me having stabilized housing that I couch surfed, looked for any temporary housing opportunities, and all of the time I was worried about being homeless as a senior and as a mother. Okay, let's see. And it hasn't been easy living in San Francisco with HIV. I was diagnosed in 2005, so I've been living with HIV for 15 years. And this is the first time I'm actually speaking publicly about my diagnosis, because I worked in the community side. And so I did speak with my children and my family about it first, and they were like, do what you gotta do, Mom, it's good. So anyway, and so when I was homeless and I didn't have a place, I didn't think about my medication. I didn't think about life stresses were going on for me. I have children and everything else. Okay, hold on. I have my notes, you guys. Hold on.
You're good, you're good.
I was a nervous wreck. So anyway, before I got my stabilized housing, it was so stressful because I didn't want to share with my family members that I'm, if I don't get a house, I might die out here, because they didn't understand what it means to be homeless and with HIV. And I've always had a place, so when I became homeless, it was very difficult. But now that I do have a place at the Avery, these new luxury apartments, oh my God, yes, I have a luxury apartment.
What floor?
I'm on the 6th floor, baby, but it's fine. It's beautiful. My view is beautiful, it's so peaceful. I think I've earned that working in the city forever and raising children. And so I'm so thankful for Brian and the Q Foundation. And it's so easy with their services to even, You know, once you're online with the services, you know, it's just automated, you know. I don't have to worry about getting my rent paid on time. I have money to even have cable, you know. I didn't have, I had to lie to even get into a project recently. I had to lie, say that I get X amount of money. So what else do I have here? Anyway, in the last couple of years is when I met Brian. You know, I never utilized services. I was a case manager. I got everyone else services. And I realized I couldn't live here. And I met Brian at the Q Foundation. I fell in love with him. Him and the whole staff, they're very beautiful. And today, okay, let's go to this page. Hold on, you guys. I'm trying to make it quick. I want to thank London Breed. I love London Breed. She has put, London. You know, I'm from San Francisco, from the Fillmore and everything. I know some of your family members. We're thankful for what you're doing for San Francisco. You know, since you've been mayor, just to see in these areas where they don't want people housed, you know, and to see that you're fighting for us. And I thank you for that. We all thank you for that. I thank the Q Foundation. I thank Brian. Brian is just awesome. You know, this man is put on this earth just to do this, you know, to help us. So thank you, everyone. That's it. So, you know, but I shared. I'm positive. Oh, wow, I can't believe it. I've never told people that, you know. I have a client here of mine that she never knew, and I didn't utilize services because of my tenants. You know, I had to be very private. I didn't want them to get a misunderstanding or judge me. But anyway, thank you, everyone, and happy holidays. And Miss Bree, thank you so much.
Regina, we're going to miss you. She was my ambassador and entree when I would go down to Aurelius Walker. I would turn around, and suddenly there's an entourage of people walking around with us, always making me feel welcome and at home. But now that you're up here in this luxury high-rise at Folsom Street, at least you're a little bit closer to the office now. Yes, I think so. Awesome. Thank you, Regina. Next, Joe Hollandoner from the San Francisco AIDS Foundation has done remarkable things in transforming that organization. Earlier I talked about Mayor Breed's administration and how open and accessible and effective they are. And the same thing under Joe's leadership, the AIDS Foundation. We are continuing to build closer and closer relationships and working together on solving all of our joint issues. And it's absolutely the DNA that Joe is creating in that organization, and I welcome you to come on up and speak.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I want to echo what everything was said in terms of thanking the mayor for her continuous support around addressing the homelessness crisis and the housing and affordability crisis in our city, and also want to thank and congratulate Brian and the Q Foundation for this exciting announcement today. As the mayor suggested and said, we are at a pivotal moment in our fight to end the HIV epidemic. Last year, we had fewer than 200 new cases of HIV, and over the last 5 years, we've seen a decrease by 51% in the number of new cases. But what we also know is that the number of new cases amongst people experiencing homelessness is on the rise. In 2015, there were 29. In 2018, there were 40. And so what we know is that in order for our city to get to zero, which is the ambitious goal that we are all rallying behind, that we must address the issue of housing and we must address the issue of homelessness. And that of the people who are on the streets each and every night who are living with HIV, we know that just 33% of them are virally suppressed. And that the best way to get them access to care and get them into consistent treatment is to make sure that they have a safe place to rest their head each and every night. And that's not a shelter, it's a home. So today's announcement is quite exciting and was going to get us even further to this goal. But what I also want to acknowledge is it's not just people who are living on the streets that need the support. We are an amazing community and made amazing by the long-term survivors and the people who responded to the AIDS crisis in the early 80s. Right now, there are over 16,000 individuals living with HIV in San Francisco, and 65% of them are over the age of 50. And what we know is that these individuals are not saying that their HIV care needs are going unmet. What they're saying is that they're experiencing housing insecurity and they're experiencing isolation. And so again, housing is the solution, housing is the answer. And by making sure that these survivors of the worst epidemic in modern time, can survive this crisis of housing and stay in our city, the city that they made great, is something not only the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and Q Foundation is committed to, but I know that Mayor Breed as well as Supervisor Mandelman are all committed to. So I couldn't be prouder to be part of today's announcement and can't wait to further collaborate with the Q Foundation and more of our partners in the room on ensuring that everyone has access to affordable housing.
I can't even remember when I first met Raphael Mandelman. It was before my hair was gray. And he has always been such an incredibly grounded, honest, and natural communicator. Of the many things I like about Raphael is he has the ability to so easily put into words his values and how his policy positions connect with them, and do it in a way that leads everybody else to that place. It's like, oh, this is why we believe in what we believe. And that is such an incredible skill that I always hope to, aspire to. So I'm so proud to welcome Supervisor Raphael Mandelman here and thank him for his leadership in getting us this $1 million with Mayor London Breed.
That's ridiculous. I'm not nearly as eloquent as Brian said. I'm not eloquent at all. I'm not sure who I am or what I'm doing here. No, we all know San Francisco has a homelessness crisis, and we also all know that the best solution to homelessness is to prevent it from happening in the first place. And so that is why this program is so critical and valuable, and why I am so grateful to Brian and the Q Foundation for your relentless, tireless advocacy, but also for the HIV/AIDS Providers Network, Bill Hirsch and others who make the rounds every year in City Hall, along with the AIDS Foundation and Joe, to ensure that the HIV/AIDS community is not forgotten in our annual budget. And I think that we have gotten some significant wins in the last year. We are nowhere near where we need to be, but this is a really significant win. And so thanks to all who made it happen. Tom Temprano, my aide here, and I are getting ready to go into another budget cycle, and we look forward to working with you to make sure that no community is left behind, but particularly not the HIV/AIDS community. So thank you.
There's a lot of credit to share. I'm so happy that we were able to invite some of the people who deserve our thanks. But there's also many others, and in the space of time, we don't always get a chance to thank everybody. One of the things I want to acknowledge is our partnership with the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. We got our first funding with them 15 years ago, and they have been an incredible partner. They are open, they listen to the community, they incorporate our feedback, and it really is this incredible collaboration. They're also really good about getting contracts done, paying bills on time. So from leadership to visioning all the way down to administrative finesse, I am so thankful and proud to be a partner with Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, Brian Chu. Helen Hale is going to be our new connection point with the HIV subsidies in the program. And so everybody, please give them a round of applause for all of their years of service. I believe all of our speakers are done, right? Awesome. So everybody who spoke and has to go to another event, you're allowed to go now. So this is where we're going to just move into the part where we talk about some of the eligibility